Hello and welcome. You're watching India Today Global, and I am Anisha Mathur, and we're speaking to Advocate Varun Bajaj of RSD Bajaj Global law firm, who handles a number of shipping and oil contract matters. You're also the Secretary of the Society of Indian Law Firms. Varun, welcome to India Today. Thank you for speaking to us.
Hi, Anisha.
So the first question that I will ask you is that what are the key areas of concern that your clients are raising as the war in West Asia continues legally? What are the key areas of concern right now?
Right. So, in fact, the entire war is having a direct impact on a lot of legal contracts and also indirect impact on a lot of India suppliers. But the centerpiece which is getting impacted is a lot of the shipping companies, insurance companies are triggering the clause of force majeure in the current situation to get out of contracts to not supply oils, and that is creating a big market disruption as we know at this stage. Now, force majeure is a concept under law wherein if it is a provision to be used that when some person is not able to deliver the contract due to an underlying situation such as a war, then force majeure is a concept which is stipulated in these major oil contracts. But what is making it more trickier is that some of the oil companies and some of these suppliers are doing selective triggering of these force majeure situations, wherein a lot of the suppliers at some countries, and it is going country specific, like a lot of the supplies to China is continuing. However, what the regime and a lot of these companies, what they have done is that a lot of the suppliers to US and Western Asian countries is getting hit. So I think the trigger point is that force majeure is being triggered, and that is triggered for a war situation, that is fine. But selective triggering of force majeure basis where the vessels are going to countries is creating a legal complicities, and a lot of the suppliers and oil companies, insurance companies are approaching us to have legal opinions on how to proceed with the same.
So, can you explain to us a little bit when you say selective triggering of force majeure? Does that mean that the supplier countries, which is say a Bahrain or a Qatar or a Dubai, they are sending the shipments to certain countries but are stopping shipments from other countries? Or does that mean that the insurance companies which are responsible for insuring the ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz, they are either selectively giving coverage or selectively not giving coverage? What exactly does selective mean in this context?
Yes, that is a good question. So I would say this is happening at multiple levels. So one is the level where the supplying countries are obligated to comply with the international law. That is country to country level dealing, where it is governed by your United Nations conventions and adopted. Second level is that even if the countries are permitting, whether the shipping companies or the insurance companies are giving or not. Now the challenge here is what the Middle East countries have, the oil supplier countries have announced formally, and this is more of a political decision, that any vessel going through the Strait of Hormuz, which is controlling almost 80-90% of the supply to West Asia, will only be given to those countries which do not belong to the US or the Zonatian regime, which is the Israeli regime or their partners. Now that call is being left that who are those to be decided on a vessel to vessel basis. Now that is creating a situation where the supply to many of these countries are guarding their military suppliers along with their vessels to go. So China and France has been able to get some supplies there, but mainly China has benefited from it. The second level problem is the suppliers in these West Asian countries who had contract for the supplies with these supplier companies in Bahrain and so on and so forth.
Varun, I'm just going to ask you to clarify. When you say suppliers in West Asian countries, are you talking about the West Asian countries which are at war, or are you talking about the other countries in Asia which are being affected?
Other countries in Asia which are being affected, I'm talking, which are the buyers of the oil. Okay. And majority of these buyers, the biggest, one of the biggest consumer is India. So India is very much, a lot of the Indian vendors are directly impacted. Also, the other buyers in Asia, so as to say.
All right. So, according to you, the selective coverage or the selective force majeure invocation is directly affecting the countries which have not been able to then either send their military presence to help the ships, or are what the West or what Iran calls supporting the US-Israel group. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Correct, correct, absolutely. And also, what is more critical is it is leading to a lot of legal complications because a lot of these buyers of contract had underlying contract with these oil suppliers. Over there, force majeure clauses are very typically there, but selective triggering is whether it has been validly executed or not is a question which is emerging. Also, what is happening is because of this selection, the premium of insurance companies, one of the major ways where the buyer and seller cover risk in this legal arrangement is through insurance companies. Now, what insurance companies have done is whatever is a safe voyager, they are kind of permitting only insurance there. And wherever
Okay.
the risk is very high, they have practically prohibited or said that they will not extend insurance policies to those supplies, triggering their war safety clauses, which is further practically stopping this oils to move because till the time you do not have a valid insurance policy, who will take the risk? So it is creating a practical situation that is that there is no insurance backer for those countries where the policy is not being given a safe passage and supply is not happening to those countries. Is a practical situation which is coming due to this.
All
So
right. In the context of India, if I can bring you, Varun, you're talking about this global geopolitical scenario, but in the context of India, what remedies do you see Indian buyers legally? What remedies do they have? If the long-term supply agreements are suspended, what happens to the Indian economy, to the Indian companies?
yes, so there are two levels to it. One is government to government. So there is a United Nation Convention on Contract for the International Sale of Goods, to which India is also a signatory, and a lot of these affected supplier countries are also a party to it, like Bahrain and so forth. So they are obligated to honor the terms there. So the government of India today is pushing to seek that honor of the UN Convention. However, and if you see, in light of this, there's a recent announcement yesterday also that Indian ships are being given a safe passage for the supplies in light of the same. However, that is country to country. What is more critical, and a lot of these clients are coming to us to get their legal opinions, because there is an underlying contract between the supplier and the buyer. Now, and most of these contracts do not go to court. They have arbitration clause of international arbitration centers. And primarily it is the SIAC, which is the Singapore Arbitration Center or the London Arbitration Center. Those are the jurisdictions it goes to. So lot of the clients are triggering notices as we speak to get protection or damages, which for the disruption which has already been claused. Some of the key clauses which have been triggered is you have a take or pay clause or a supply pay clause. Like if you are not able to get the supplies within a specified period, they have to give damages to the supplier.
Okay.
So a lot of Indian suppliers are facing those problems. So they are sending in notices pursuant to that contract, and a lot of arbitrations will trigger. So it will be a long drawn legal battle to get those damages in place.
So effectively, what we're looking at is once the wars, the hostilities subside, there will be a long-drawn legal battle for the Indian firms, and not just Indian firms, but across the world, there'll be a long-drawn battle for the firms to get their money back as it is. But let's also talk about
Absolutely.
the current situation. With the Gulf airspace is shut, the shipping lanes are disrupted. Are there any obligations on the shipping companies to reroute the cargo? Because as you said, India is also trying to get oil supplies. The entire world's oil and LNG supplies are affected. In India, we're seeing queues of people, we're seeing panic buying, we're seeing restaurants shutting down. We need that oil to come in. So, later legal battles are a different thing. Right now, what are the options available? Are there any obligations on the shipping companies to reroute the supplies? And is it even possible to do it?
Yes, so how the shipping law works in scenarios of rerouting is there's a very well known set of rules which are internationally followed, which are known as the Hague-Visby rules, which is more so like a standard practice amongst the dealers. Now, these rules are non-binding but adopted by the relevant countries essentially and followed. Now, over there, it mentions the one principle which records is that if one route is affected, then the shipper industries are under legal obligations to explore alternative routes for the same. And any cost towards the same is going to be incurred between the parties as per the defined rules mechanism. So those rules are there.
That is the rule. But what does it mean in practical implementation? Because does this mean that the shipping companies must now find alternative routes to get the oil to their buyers?
Yes. So what happens is, due to these rules, when we negotiate and close these contracts with oil companies or shipping companies, we put relevant obligations of alternative routes when we are closing those contracts. So most of the leading contracts have those safeguards. But there is a practical challenge which is coming from both the sides. If you see the geographical location of the Strait of Hormuz, if you block that 30 miles, practically you cannot take out any vessel from the Persian Gulf. Is the defense which a lot of these shipping companies are taking. So they are saying that we do not have an alternative route option itself. Is the ground which they are pressing. Whereas a lot of the suppliers are saying that you take a larger route and we are ready to compensate as per our contractual safeguard. So that is becoming a legal debate, as we are saying, for the suppliers, because the suppliers want the goods to come in.
If I may interrupt you, Varun, this is a legal debate, as you just said that, but are there larger routes available? Are there alternate routes available which have been defined in the contracts? If you can tell us about, if you can give us an example of something that one of your clients has in their contract and they're hoping that that is something that is feasible to do.
Right. So if you see, alternative routes is always a debate versus the current situation, right? There are longer sea routes which are available. And in this situation also, if the Strait of, the only thing is that Strait of Hormuz is located in such a manner that anything which is being supplied through the Persian Gulf does not have that advantage of alternative route because it's landlocked between Iraq, Saudi and UAE, if you see the map. However, there are other alternative routes which are very longer, which are available. But currently the situation is that shipping companies and the oil suppliers have restrained to take those routes because practically they are not safe routes as on date. So that is the challenge which the suppliers and the buyers today are entering into.
If you can give us an example of this longer route, Varun, if that's possible for you to give us.
Yes, so I think some of the routes it is with the that is how China is seeking. But what China is saying that, and a lot of, in fact, France is also resorting to this. They are saying that for crossing of Strait of Hormuz, they will be guided by the military vessels.
Okay.
And beyond that, they will take the Arabian Sea longer route to get the supplies done, because the bottleneck is at the Strait of Hormuz, not at the subsequent supply points. So with the military guidance on Strait of Hormuz, they are going to the longer Arabian Sea, which is not within the international waters of Iran, to get the supplies. China has explored this a lot as on date, as an alternative.
Is that a possibility for Indian companies as well? Is that route something that India can take?
It is. But the challenge there is that they will need to give military security to cross that bottleneck of Strait of Hormuz, which protection I think the government of India and a lot of this negotiation is happening as on date.
All right. Just as a last question, for Indian companies to protect their interests, what kind of contractual and legal steps can Indian companies take in the while this situation is an active one? Right now, what can they do to protect their positions?
Yes. So, in fact, that's a very important question, because most of the contracts are time bound, essentially. So whatever is the damages, because there is not only direct losses, there are indirectly losses which is kicking in. You would know recently the government of India has invoked the Essential Commodities Act for the LPG preferential allotment, which is happening. So therefore, what we are advising clients is to immediately shoot out the relevant compliance which is there under the contract to gain those liquidated damages. If they delay that in light of the commercial negotiation, then those claims will longer for many years to come. And these are not only running in millions. It is These claims are running in $1 billion today for the loss being caused, if we include both direct and indirect losses. So a lot of legal work is happening overnight to ensure that compliance to the contract can be made, and those international arbitrations or dispute resolution mechanisms are getting triggered as we speak to seek that legal protection.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Varun, for speaking to us about this. A very, very crucial point being made that to ensure that the ships can cross out of the Strait of Hormuz, China and France have sent in their military vehicles to escort those ships. And that is something that India may also be exploring. That is also something that will have the entire situation right now will also have a much longer lasting legal complication when it comes to the money, the billions of dollars, billions of rupees that are stuck because of the ongoing war. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Varun.
Thank you.